You're going to leave this earth broke if you keep optimizing the wrong thing. Not tomorrow, not next year, but the version of you still breathing in 50 years will look back at photos from today and realize something went catastrophically wrong around age 25. And the worst part? You will have known better. And you'll remember this exact moment, watching this video, and you'll wonder why you didn't act. I'm not talking about your investment portfolio or your emergency fund. Those things matter, sure. But I spent $50,000 in the last 18 months fixing something nobody talks about in finance podcasts or investment threads. If you like what you've seen so far, please like and subscribe so we can continue to grow this channel. It started with a blood test in March of last year. I thought I was the guy who had it all figured out. 28 years old, six-figure income, maxing out my 401k, living below my means, reading every productivity book in print. I'd optimized myself into a lean machine on paper. My calendar was color-coded, my meal prep was algorithmic, I tracked my steps, I didn't drink coffee past 2 p.m. I was the blueprint for responsible 20-something wealth building. Except there was one thing I never measured. What was actually happening inside my body at the cellular level? The blood work changed that. My initial metabolic panel looked normal. Then I dug deeper. Inflammation markers through the roof. Cortisol dysregulated. High at night, flatlined in the morning. TSH was on the low side. Vitamin D at 28 nanograms per milliliter, when optimal is 50 to 100. My fasting glucose was 103. My ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 was something like 18 to 1, which means my entire cellular environment was inflamed. And here's the thing nobody talks about. You can have a perfect Roth IRA contribution history and the biology of someone who's 85. I met with a functional medicine doctor that week, not a nutritionist, not a life coach, a medical doctor who specialized in why wealthy people who've optimized everything still feel exhausted and get sick unexpectedly. She asked me one pivotal question. You've been building a house toward retirement for 10 years. On what foundation did you build? The answer? Nothing solid. Not rock. Sinking sand. She ordered more tests. Comprehensive metabolic panel, an advanced lipid panel, also known as an NMR that shows actual lipid types, numbers, sizes, and density, thyroid antibodies, cortisol saliva tests at 4 different times of day, genetic testing for methylation issues, and a full microbiome analysis. The total cost? About $3,000 just for the data. But here's what I learned. Money without health is a very expensive form of poverty. You can have millions and still be operating on a body that's spending all its resources just fighting inflammation you don't feel yet. So I spent the next year and a half fixing it. Not trying, not dabbling, actually fixing it. The first $10,000 went to working with the doctor and a specialized nutritionist on something most people don't understand. Your microbiome isn't just bacteria in your gut, it's a living ecosystem that's generating the neurotransmitters you think your brain is making, regulating your immune system, controlling your metabolism, and literally determining which genes get expressed and which ones stay silent. I had dysbiosis. My gut was basically a failed city. So I did a protocol, eliminating specific foods for 4 months, rotating in specific probiotics with targeted strains, adding specific prebiotics, repairing the intestinal lining with L-glutamine and bone broth, and something called zonulin inhibitors. It cost about $2,000 for the supplements alone over that period, and all the while my head screamed for an ice cream fix and some buttery comfort food. But around week 12, something shifted. My brain fog, which I didn't know I had until it lifted, just vanished. I could actually think. Not the caffeinated thinking where you feel productive, but your thoughts are scattered. Actual, clear thinking. The next $15,000 went to optimization once the foundation was fixed. First, I wore a continuous glucose monitor one for 3 months and learned that my breakfast smoothie, the one I thought was healthy because it had spinach and almond butter, was spiking my glucose like I'd eaten a donut. I learned which foods actually worked for my specific metabolism versus which ones I was eating because the internet said so. Second, I did peptide therapy under the guidance of a sports medicine doctor to improve recovery and potentially reverse some metabolic damage I'd done with years of inconsistent sleep. Next, I did red light therapy. And yes, I know how that sounds because it's not a peer-reviewed study area, but there's some early anecdotal mitochondrial research regarding cellular energy production. I added some hyperbaric oxygen therapy because my blood volume of oxygen maximum, or VO2, was lower than it should be at my age, which means every cell in my body was running on less oxygen than optimal. I also did some targeted vitamin and mineral supplementation based on genetic testing. It turns out I have an MTHFR mutation, meaning I need L-methylfolate, which is the active form of folate that can be taken as an alternative to folic acid. I also have a slower caffeine metabolism, which explained why I felt like I had 3 shots of espresso in my nervous system after just 1 cup. These are things you cannot optimize without knowing. The remaining 25 grand went toward building sustainable systems, like a sleep doctor who analyzed my sleep architecture and discovered I was spending 8% of my sleep in deep sleep when I should have been at 20%. I wore a continuous heart rate variability monitor that taught me my nervous system was stuck in sympathetic overdrive. My body was literally treating every day like a survival emergency. I even got a cryo chamber membership, which I was skeptical about until I understood it wasn't about looking cool. It was about parasympathetic activation and accelerated recovery from the cellular stress I was accumulating. I added regular appointments with the doctor to retest and adjust protocols. Here's where it gets uncomfortable, though. Around month 8, I realized something that changed everything for me. The money didn't actually matter anymore. I mean, yes, I had a 6-figure income so I could afford it, but the fact that I could afford it also meant something else. Everyone younger than me, everyone making less than me, everyone who doesn't have 50 grand to optimize their biology right now is essentially trapped. They're going to spend their 30s and 40s paying the cost of decisions their 25-year-old self had made without good information. Chronic disease, medication dependence, metabolic damage, accumulated inflammation. They'll earn more money later, sure, but they'll spend it fixing what should have been prevented. And then the actual truth hit me. The people who get truly wealthy aren't the ones optimizing their biology. They're the ones who got lucky with genetics or grew up with parents who understood this process implicitly. Or they're part of the 1% who has unlimited access to the best medical care that compounds their biological advantage over decades. The system is designed so that if you don't have physical resources at 25, you're going to be metabolically disadvantaged for life. And if you wait to have the resources until 45, the bill will be exponentially higher. That's the trap. Not that you should spend 50 grand on biohacking. The trap is that the game itself is rigged. Your future health is being decided right now by decisions you're making with incomplete information, and most of you are operating without even knowing it. So what changed for me? Everything. My energy levels are measurably better. My blood work is now optimal across every metric. My sleep architecture completely shifted. I'm now spending 22% of my sleep time in deep sleep. My inflammation markers dropped by 70%. My fasting glucose is 94. I can think clearly for 12 hours straight instead of crashing in 3. My recovery from workouts is faster. My mood is more stable. My skin is better. I'm not exaggerating when I say it feels like I downloaded a new operating system into my body. But here's the thing that haunts me. I spent $50,000 to get my biology to where it should have been if I'd just known better at 20. And now I'm in a position where maintaining it is actually manageable, and it's maybe $1,500 a month in supplements, testing, and specialized services. Expensive, yes, but sustainable for someone with my income. But for the person making 40 grand a year, that $1,500 a month isn't possible. Literally impossible. They have to choose between rent and cellular optimization. The moral ambiguity here is the point. Yes, I feel incredible. Yes, the money was worth it for me personally. But I also can't unsee what this means. Wealth isn't just built on money. It's also built on biology. And biology is being quietly gatekept by access to information and resources that most people don't even know exist. You can optimize your entire financial life perfectly and still be broke in the only currency that actually matters, cellular health. The question you need to ask yourself right now isn't, should I spend $50,000 on biohacking? The question is, what am I not measuring right now, what is silently destroying my future? So, start small. Find a doctor who understands the body as a system. Run a couple of the lab tests that I mentioned. Maybe your employer's insurance has a kicker for proactive health improvement, but get all the data, not just the insurance-covered data. Ask questions, make inquiries, get started today. Because that's the real wealth game, and almost nobody's playing it yet.